Cursor, Windsurf, Lovable, Bolt. Just a name of a few AI code editor. Have you ever wondered how they work or even how hard it would be to create such an AI code editor? Well, look no further. In this mini course, we will create our simple AI code generator. In fact, as we spoke, our AI code editor generated a beautiful Twitter card design. And it also has some sort of interactivities. And we can use this download button to download the generated code. And we can use the editor to edit our post in real time. Let's try to create another app. So I'm going to say sortable to-do list app. Run. And here it started generating our code. Let's see how it looks. And it is done creating, and as you can see, it looks very beautiful. Let's try to add a to-do. Another one. And let's try to click here, and we can mark them as complete. We can delete it. And not only that, but we can also sort it, which is very interesting because most beginner can even do it, but our editor has made it in just couple of seconds. So this is very powerful, and I hope you're excited to make this with me. We're going to do everything from scratch. You just need a little bit of knowledge of React and Node.js. Let's start. Okay, to get started, I have opened an empty folder named AI Code Editor in VS Code. So let's start by creating some folders. We're going to create two folders, one called client for the client-side codes and another one called server for server-side codes. And in the client, we're going to create a new React project. So I'm going to open the terminal and first go to our client and then run npm create vite at latest. And for the project name, we can just say dot because I'm already inside the folder I want. And I'm going to use React and just JavaScript. And then we can say npm I to install. While this is installing, let's also install some packages in our server. So let's cd into server. And then we can say npm init-y to initialize a package.json here. And now we're going to install, so npm I for install, we're going to install express. We're going to install course, we're going to install .env and enter. Okay, it should be .env, not .env, sorry. Okay, everything is installed. We need one more package, so I'm going to say npm I, but this time I'm going to say -d for development and then nodemon. So nodemon will be only installed as a development dependency. And nodemon will basically restart our server every time we make some changes to our files. And we can also create a new file called index.js and make sure it is inside our server folder. In the package.json, we're going to create some scripts. We're going to create a dev script, and here we can simply say nodemon index.js. We can also create a start script that will say node index.js. Okay, now in the index.js, let's start creating a basic server. So I'm going to say const express equals to require express, const course equals to require course, const .env equals to require.env, and then we can say .env.config, port equal to process.env.port or 3000. And then we are going to use course, we're going to use express.json and URL encoded. And then we can create a test route, so we can say app.get / and we can simply say welcome to the server. And then we can say app.listen, listen to our port, and console log server is running on localhost :3000. Let's try to run npm run dev. Okay, now let's focus on the front end. So all the dependencies have also been installed on front end. Let's say npm run dev. And our front end project is also installed. Let's do some cleanup. So in the source, we don't need the assets folder. We don't need the app.css. In the app.js, I am also going to remove most of the stuff. So we don't need anything here. We don't need the state. We don't need all this content. For now, h1, let's say welcome to React app. and this is what it looks like. Let's go our index.css. We don't need any of this either. The main.js, yeah, main.js is good. Okay, for styling I want to use Tailwind CSS. If you have never used Tailwind, don't worry, it is very easy. So simply search for Tailwind CSS. It's the first link, and then we can click on get started, and here is the using with Vite guide. So we simply have to run this command. So I'm going to paste it and hit enter, and we're also going to have to add it in our vite.config.js. So copy this line, go to vite config, import it, and we want to use it in our plugins array. So right now we only have React, but we want React as well as our Tailwind CSS config, and then we have to import it in the CSS. Okay, let's add some test class to see if it's working. So in our body we can say class, we can say something like pg-gray-800 and text-white. And oh, we have to restart our server, so npm run dev, refresh, and it is working. We got our Tailwind classes working. And by the way, as you can see, if I say something, let's say text dash, I already get the autocompletes, and I also see what the result will be. So if I accept it and hover on the text, I also get some code snippets. If you also want this kind of solution, what you have to do is go to extensions and search for Tailwind, and the extension is called Tailwind CSS IntelliSense. If you want, you can install it. Okay, I'm going to add some classes to our root as well. So class, first we are going to give it a container class. So to visualize what that will do, let's also give it some background color. So we can say pg-red, and let's try this color. And because we said container, our div will have a max width like so. But we want our div to be centered, so we're also going to say mx-auto, so margin on left and right to be auto. We also want some padding inside, so p-5, so padding of 20 pixel on all sides. And we can also say min-h-screen, so it should take up the entire screen. And then we can say flex to give it a display of flex, a flex-call for flex direction of column, and then we can say gap-3. So why do we need a flex layout? So if I go to our apps and add some more content, now we have some gap between our contents. And not only that, if I add a class in our h3, so let's say empty-auto, which means margin top of auto, we can place our content at the very end very easily. So this is why I'm using a flex layout. Okay, we can remove this background. And now what we want to do is create our input component. So in the source, create a new file. It will be inside components folder, and we're going to call it input.jsx. Okay, first we're going to have a div. Inside the div we're going to have a text area, and then we're also going to have a button. Now inside the button we want a SVG, so I'm going to search for send button, send icon SVG, and let's click here. And we can choose this one, for example. Open it in VS Code, and this is the SVG. We can copy the SVG part, close it, and paste it here. And we don't need this attribute, we can remove this. We don't need this part either. Save, and let's just use it in our app component. So let's say import. We're going to import input from components/input. And we don't need all this HTML, we just say input component. So here it is, the icon is very big, so let's make it smaller. So in our input, we're going to say instead of 800 pixel, let's try 28 pixel. And much better now, but we want it to be white, so we can give our path some class also. So class name of fill-white. We can do the same for this path, class name equals to fill-white. Now our icon is white. Now the text area, we don't need all this attribute, we just want a placeholder. In the placeholder we can say example create a to-do app, and we can start styling it. So in our div, our div will have some class names. So class names, we're going to say bg-gray-600. It will have rounded border radius, so we're going to say rounded-xl, which will be 12 pixel in border radius. And then we are also going to say it will have a display of flex, and the items will be placed at the end. So the button can be at the bottom. It's a p-6 for padding of 24 pixel, and then margin top will be auto. And this is what it looks like now. Let's target our text area. So our text area will also have some classes. So class name, it should have full width, so w-full, and it should have a height of, let's say, 26, which is about 104 pixel. And then we don't want any outline, so we're going to say outline dash none, so no outline. And let's say our input will receive a callback function, so let's call it cb for callback. And in our button we can say on click, we're going to call handle click function. So let's create our function. We can say const handle click, it will be a function. So inside that, first we want to get the value of our text area. So for that we're going to use the useref, import useref from React, and then we can create an input ref. So we're going to say const input ref equals to useState null, and in our text area we can say ref equals to input ref, like so. And now in our handle click we can say const input value equals to input ref dot current dot value dot trim, to remove all the white space if there is. And if we have a value, only then we are going to call the callback function, and then we're setting the value of our text area to none. Okay, in our app.js, now let's try to create a handle input function. So we're going to say const handle input, it will receive the input value. Let's just console log our input value. So in our input we're going to say cb, or the callback, we're going to pass our handle input. Let's open the console. Let's just say hello, click on send, and we get hello. And another component I want to create in this part is a loading component. So in our components, let's create a new file. We're going to call it full page loader .jsx, and we're going to create a component, use it in our app component. So we're going to say import full page loader, and we can use the full page loader here. It's just saying full page loader, we don't want that. So let's start styling it. So we're going to give our div some class names. So class names, it will be a fixed in position, so we're going to say fixed. It will have top 0, left 0, and width and height of full, and the background can be white, so we can say bg-white, but the opacity can be, let's say, only 10%. And then we're going to say display of flex, item center and justify center to place everything in center, and z index of 50. So inside that we can create another div. We can give some class name, we can say size, let's say 10, to give it a width and height of 40 pixel, and then we can say rounded-full to make it round, and then we can give some borders. So you can say border-3 and then border-white, and this is how it looks like. And then we can say border-b for bottom dash, we can say blue, and we can choose this color for example. So one of the border is now blue, and we need some animation. So in the Tailwind we can search for animation. As you can see, we got animation. So simply animate spin. Then in our app component, what we can do is use a use state. So we can say import, we're going to import use state from React, and then we're going to say const loadings and set loading equals to use state false. And then here what we can do is say if loading, show the full page loader. So now we don't see the loader, but if we set the loading to true, then we get our loader. Okay, this will be all for this part, and in the second part we'll start creating the backend for our project. I hope you're excited, and don't forget to subscribe.